Hello, and welcome to the next episode of Two Girls Talk Transits. Today, we're reviewing the astrology from January 19th through January 25th, and we're your host. I'm Maddie.
And I'm Kaleigh.
And welcome back. So, we have another really busy week, kind of building off of last week. We start off on the 19th, which is that Sunday. Mercury and Capricorn will sextile that recent Venus-Saturn conjunction that we had in Pisces. So maybe giving some messages from that conjunction or kind of giving some clarity around what you're working on through there. I feel like the Venus Saturn was sort of like helping piece together some Saturn issues that you're working, like the long-term goals, the long-term structures. And then
Mhm.
Mercury's soft sextile is just saying, like, okay, let's put this into more of a day-to-day plan or more into a forward direction, I think.
Yeah, I would agree. With Mercury being in Capricorn right now, it's very practical. It's giving
Mhm.
us those like practical things that we need. Um, so yeah.
Yeah, and maybe a little creative. I guess with Venus there, it can be like a little bit sweeter, a little more creative and a little more enjoyable sort of conversations or ideas flowing. And with the Saturn element, it is the practical, direct manifestation to your daily life and your world and everything that that entails.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I mean, if we were to like separate it, like if Venus wasn't co-present there, it would probably just be like straight to business kind of aspect. But like you mentioned with Venus kind of being there, we have like a bit more enjoyment that comes along with it, or maybe there's some aspect of like could even be like figuring out like the aesthetics that surround your business
Mm.
or like um something to do with like paying attention more so to like how things look instead of like 100% like back end stuff.
Yeah, I like how things feel because, this is the exalted Venus in Pisces. So this is the Venus who wants things to be very Venetian. So it's like, what makes this better for you? What makes this enjoyable? What makes this pleasing for you?
Mhm.
What is like pleasing about this work and factoring that in, even if you know the Saturn piece that it's going to take some time or it's still this long, sustained effort.
Right.
Right. And then we also have the sun then entering into Aquarius on the 19th. So Aquarius traditionally is also ruled by Saturn, but it's sort of the progression of Saturn. In Hellenistic traditional astrology, Capricorn tends to be sort of the traditionalist and like how things are. This is the way it is. This is how the system works. And Aquarius is about taking that system and innovating it, revolutionizing it, or creating more freedom and doing it more so in that humanitarian way for other people. So there's a little bit of that shift going into Aquarius season. And of course, Pluto's there now, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, moving right into that conjunction with Pluto. That'll be that'll be a nice like hello to Aquarius season. Like, hey, I know you want to like push past like everything that's been limiting you and like come up with a new innovative way to do things, but here's like some limitations to come with that, or here's like the control. Like we're gonna control it in some way. I was listening to the astrology podcast, and Chris Brennan had a co-host. It's one that he often has, but I can't remember his name. Maybe Austin
Yeah,
something.
Austin Coppock.
Yeah. And he
Yeah.
was talking a lot about Pluto and how like when Pluto transits into new signs, it can oftentimes like be like the new face of fear. So,
Mm.
like with Pluto transiting into Aquarius, like the face of fear is kind of like now people are worried about like AI and like social media and things like this. So, we have to put like Pluto's wanting to control that in some way. Like we need to control this because if we can't, like it could get too big that we don't know what can happen or something like that.
Yeah, I think it's like the technologies, like the data. Like the good example is that TikTok is set to go banned or like dark in the United States. Like you'll still have it on your phones, but you can't download it on the 19th, which is when the sun enters Aquarius and conjuncts Pluto, which that kind of feels into that whole 20th weekend or the Monday as well. But that's a very literal example of like, banning. There's a
Mm-hmm.
fear around this data going to China and a fear around like how that's used and a constant need to control that. But then, as if you're on TikTok, you know that most people are kind of like leaning into it. And it's like this collective uprising of like, we're just going to go to this Red Note app, which is Chinese based, which is literally just handing all our data directly to China anyway. Like, and so there's a very Aquarian sort of way to like uprise against the Plutonian control, I think, you
Mm-hmm.
know?
Yeah, I do find that to be very interesting. That's definitely a hot topic right now. Like how
Right.
everybody's migrating to the new app. That's so funny that they're choosing to go right there. Like it's like defiantly against their own government and like
Right. Literally, it's like this team collectively, we all agreed that like we'll just go to another Chinese app and not use Meta because I mean, well, that was the purpose with like Pluto was to like almost like Pluto and Aquarius was trying to control the social media sphere, the technology sphere, right? Like that would be very Aquarian is social media technology. And they want us to go to, there's only really like two mega corporations now that own social media in the United States, which is Meta and like I guess Elon, whatever. But like, they want us, their expectation was to go to Instagram, go to Facebook. And then it's like, no, we're actually not gonna do that because you want us to, you know?
mm-hmm. Yeah, which is very like Aquarian. We're gonna do kind of like the opposite of what you want and do our own thing. Like
Hmm.
so yeah. I wonder how it'll evolve, like this whole like control over social media stuff. Because it's like technology is rapidly growing at the same time that it's trying to be controlled. So it's going to it be interesting to like to see the evolution of that over the next 20 years. China might even like if we analyze China's government at the moment and how they've controlled their social media channels, they might be giving us kind of like a lens into what that could look like for our country, um, given we take it further and further.
I think it is only going to get worse. Like, I think the terms of controlling technology, controlling the type of technology we do, and, Aquarius is an air sign, so it's about communication, controlling the ways or the avenues that we have to communicate with the collective. I think that's only going to get more intense as Pluto
Mhm.
progresses. And I think creative ideas of rebellion are also going to kind of rise as well. But I think it is going to be more of the government trying to determine how exactly you do communicate and what apps you do use and what technology you do use, because there is, again, like you said, that fear of how that data, how that information is being used.
Mm. Yeah, very much so. It reminds me of like, remember when we were in school and they would put like restrictive bans on like the certain websites that we could go to? But then,
Yeah.
somebody would like get smart and like figure out how to like override that. I feel like
Yeah.
it's going to be a lot of that. It's going to be a lot of like push and pull, like, oh, you put this ban, okay, I figure something else out. You put this on, I figure something else. It's going to be like constantly like finding the loopholes, because society just won't like we're Americans and people's like I really believe that like people's brain chemistry and like the way their brains work are so developed by their culture and Americans are so ingrained as like these like we do what we want kind of people like we're freedom of speech, like we don't like to be controlled. So I think that, we will try to find ways around it because we're not, I don't know, how do you take a society that's used to having like all this free reign and like strip it from them? They're not going to respond well.
I mean, we've already seen it with the porn bans.
Oh, I didn't know
You
about that.
know, yeah. Well, I guess you don't want to. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
A bunch of states, mostly southern conservative Republican states, have been banning Pornhub is like the main one, but like porn sites are forcing you to enter like your driver's license into their database to like access it because they're trying to prevent under 18. Well, like this day that it happened in Florida, at least, like the search for VPNs was like 10,000 times high. Like people just got VPNs. And
Mm,
like, like it's that like we were already seeing this like real intense control, like trying to double down on what technology you can use, which is just interesting given America's supposed to be free and all that.
I know, right? I'm wondering though, what my mind's kind of going to is like, is there a place where we can invest in like VPNs or something? Because those are about to pop off. Like,
Don't take stock advice from us, but
yeah. Like literally so many people are about to like get VPNs, I bet.
well, I mean, VPNs like kind of eliminate the control technology has over people because like another one that I saw was like you can get a VPN for another country that you're going to fly to like in Europe or in Asia and then buy your plane ticket through that VPN and it's like
Mhm.
thousands of dollars cheaper. Like people are seeing that like oh, technology was kind of used to limit us in some way and then that's not allowed. We're not going to allow that happen anymore. Like more technology is going to come out that creates that bypass.
Yeah, for sure. I played around with that before though, actually in the past. Like VPN,
Yeah.
changing my server to see if I can get cheaper flights.
Did it work?
Um, I can't remember like it ever being like super successful, but I haven't actually tried it in the US.
Mm,
Yeah, usually I think though, like in general, like travel from the US to like other countries tends to
is
be
it's
like,
always
yeah,
expensive. Yeah.
like whenever you're like traveling in Asia to another Asian country, like it's super cheap, or in Europe to another European country, it's really cheap. But anytime you try to fly from the US or to the US, like I don't think it really matters much of the VPN. You're just gonna end up shelling out your cash.
Right. But yeah, I don't know. I just think entering into Aquarius season, we are going to see a lot more of those themes pop up and maybe personally for you around the 20th, which is that Monday when the sun does conjunct Pluto, you just personally may run into power dynamics or positions of control or things that are you're feeling limited or you feel like your freedom is being kind of oppressed by some sort of power element or just ways that you yourself need to step into more power in a way, I
Mm,
don't know, to create more revolutionary change in yourself.
yeah, yeah, that's a really interesting way to put it. Like, you could be called to step into more power yourself. I also thought that it could be like, it could illuminate like our internal fears in some way.
Mm, that's a good one.
Um, yeah, so, we've all been kind of experiencing that Mars retrograde in Cancer and like being held back from like action. So like the sun opposed that Mars like retrograde earlier this week or like this
Hmm.
past week before. And then like entering into that conjunction with Pluto, we could potentially be like feeling like, oh, maybe there are like fears that also go along with like that action that's been holding me back.
Well, I just realized the 20th is inauguration day.
That's interesting too.
So, yeah, and I know there is definitely a lot of, no matter what, just collective unrest about that. Like, yeah, and fears or just uncertainty or that's a literal shift in power for Americans at least.
Very true. Yeah.
Right.
Wow. Yeah. We're like really when presidents change, it's like a big thing. So we're
I
on to a
know.
whole new era.
Yeah, so it's definitely going to be that sort of energy, uncomfortable kind of things pop up. Um,
Hmm.
but see what happens.
Right.
we'll then progress through the week, the 23rd, which is later on about that Thursday. We have a couple aspects, but Mars in Cancer will retrograde to a sextile to Uranus. I mean, with the Sun conjuncting Pluto this week and then Mars sextiling Uranus, there can definitely be some disruptions or needed to take an action or suddenly feeling inspired to take a change or take an action and kind of change or just shift things up, feel more
Hmm.
control back into your life, maybe.
Yeah, could see that. Yeah,
Yeah. But then Mercury on that same day is also opposite Mars, and then it's also trining Uranus. So it's like almost like that full moon in Cancer we had last week, kind of when
that's
the
what it's
sun was
reminding me
doing,
of. Yeah.
yeah, the sun
Mhm.
was doing that, but now Mercury is doing that, the messenger planet. So yeah, I mean, Mercury opposite Mars, definitely tense discussions, definitely kind of arguing, fighting words, or feeling really frustrated mentally about something. But the Uranian aspect is like, oh, but we can disrupt this. We can try something new. So maybe sparking a new idea or maybe sparking kind of new change, hopefully. I just think it's still gonna be like wanting to fight against that power dynamic that we've had earlier in the week too.
Mm-hmm. Or like that, that tense discussion, sets us off towards like a new trajectory or like a changed path in some way.
Mm-hmm.
It could be like something that has been repressed or like that we haven't been like speaking about. And then we
That's a good
decide,
one.
yeah, decide to like let the cat out of the bag.
Yeah, because in its core, Mercury is delivering messages from Mars right now, and it's the Mars
Mhm.
retrograde in Cancer. And so it's like delivering messages about how you've been feeling unsafe or how you've been feeling unsecure, unprotected, or like what actions you feel like you need to focus on instead that are different or just like what actions you've been reviewing. It's like at its core you're like, okay, maybe now I can make some changes or some ideas about things that can change. Just Uranus will definitely want to spark that, I think.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. Which is, yeah, we might appreciate that like change of energy in some way.
Maybe, I don't know. I think the two though, the core component with this is that just like it's an opposition, you
Yeah,
know you're not you're not in agreement in oppositions. You're in two different sides of the story.
that's for sure. Yeah.
And Mercury could be in Capricorn, kind of like saying, stay traditional, stay in this path, stay in this system. But the Mars in Cancer is like, no, I feel unsafe, or no, I don't feel secure, or no, this doesn't feel right. So there's this, there's just disagreements from that.
I feel like that's very like stay in the system would be like a really good piece because like, Sun in Aquarius is not going to want to like stay in the system if it's not working and if it's not like supporting the people. So, um that could be a moment where like tensions begin to rise like collectively and there's like a lot of discourse about like how can we like begin to change things because the way that things are going is not the way that we would like ideally like in like a utopia like to see it.
Hmm. I think so too. I think maybe personally for you, you're looking at what how Mars and Cancer is impacting your focus or your change or your work that you've been working on with Capricorn, like your long-term Saturnian work. Maybe having to redirect your energies or kind of take a new idea and that's different.
Mm.
Like Mars kind of like sparking a different direction for sure, or like a different mode of output of energy.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
So from there, we'll wrap up the week on Saturday, Venus, and we'll also trine Mars. There's a lot of Mars energy this week.
Right. That's fun. I love Mars.
There's a lot of Mars energy for sure. It's just like a continuation. I mean, this week is like a continuation from the previous week. Around that full moon in Cancer that happened on the last Monday, we're kind of seeing it play out more. Um, I mean, Venus trining Mars can bring a little more ease or comfort or support to your actions. If Mercury sparked an idea like, hey, I'm going to make this change, I'm going to take a different action, Venus
Mhm.
can be like this collective support that comes in to help you with that, or a collective agreement that makes that action a little bit easier. You know, they're flowing, they're in a trine. So it's
Mhm.
like, hey, we all agree to this, like let's actually do this, you know?
Right. Yeah, I'm interested to see like how it will speak to that like larger Mars cycle.
Mm.
Yeah, but I think yeah, like you said, it could just be like a moment of like sweetness to like any kind of changed action we tried to take. Um yeah, I'm just interested about like action in general, like over the next course of like Mars retrograde, like how is that going to look and like is it going to be like action that we're reviewing or are we reviewing already past actions? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think it's probably both. Like, I still think Mars retrograde in Cancer is just kind of like, it's almost like it's having to go back and take action on things that were an idea before, but now they're finally happening. You
Mm-hmm.
know, like right before Mars entered Leo was election day.
Mm-hmm.
So like now we've elected this, and now we are in the effects of it, and like what actions, especially, you know, you can look at this in terms of the president. We elected this president because they said they were going to do certain actions. And
Will
now
those
Mars is
actions
retro.
follow through? Yeah.
Yeah, will those actions follow through? Will those actions actually be paid? But the Mars retrograde here could say, "Oh no, I'm going back. Actually, guys, we need to do something else. We're actually going to take a different
Mm-hmm.
action. We're actually going to do this instead."
Mm-hmm.
And it's probably this like pain point that comes up this week where it kind of you feel blindsided because there's suddenly been a redirection that you weren't that was not comforting, that you weren't aware of.
Right. Well, hello to discomfort. Mars and
Yeah.
Cancer. Yeah.
But I mean, at least the Saturday, the 25th, like the Venus trine Mars, that's generally a fun day to do fun things, like take it out of the collective view, do fun things with people you enjoy, like, you know, and especially in terms of like nourishing your emotional needs and in nourishing your body. Like Mars and Cancer can be so difficult on the body and so difficult in terms of like suppressing your body needs because you have to fight for this, you know? And Venus can kind of tap into that emotional realm a bit more and bring comfort there and be like, hey, it's okay to feel these things and it's okay to like slow down and take care of yourself here in this space, even if it is feeling really scarcity or insecure.
Yeah, I could agree with that. Yeah, we need to invite a little bit of ease somewhat in some way. Also on that day we're gonna have the moon in Sag. So like you mentioned, like spending time like with friends or doing something fun, like lightening the load a little bit, um,
Mhm.
could be like a really good way to spend that day. You know, we need to like also enjoy ourselves. So, you know, trying to have, Sagittarius is very like childlike and likes to play. So could be a good time for a little bit of play.
Wait, so if the moon is in Sag on the 25th, that means that it was in Scorpio during Mercury opposite Mars. Was it also like squaring Pluto on the 23rd
Let me
of
see.
Thursday?
Um, Pluto. Yes, it will.
Yes. Nice. So
Yeah.
you're gonna get, so not only on that Thursday are you gonna get like that Mercury opposite Mars arguments, frustrations, but then you also have the moon squaring the Pluto and the sun. So then it's like a revisitation back. I mean, I think one thing for this week is that you're really gonna feel Pluto and Aquarius. You're really gonna know what that means for you. You're really gonna
Oh,
understand what that's pulling out at you.
yeah. And that Mars like element too. Like
Yeah,
it's gonna be really like in your face. Um,
right.
yeah, so enjoy that.
I think just be safe. And I mean, just as we know, like, Mars does is reacting based on emotions right now, and it's reacting based on moon transits. And so the moon has been kind of just different places throughout the week. So just try to go slow with your feelings. But I do think there's going to be a lot more tension this week than softness.
Yeah. I think if anything too, like, there's this attention that we're probably going to need to give to our emotional body more so than we would at other points because Mars is in Cancer and Cancer is very representational of emotions. So we're going to need to like treat ourselves with a little bit more care and really tune in to like how do I feel about this thing or how do I feel about that thing and allow that to kind of like shape our landscape in one way or the other. Like it's almost like we don't want to be too reactive, but sometimes we need to allow those emotions to be messengers and allow them to like guide us, in the right direction. Emotions are like a valid communication source, so it's important to pay attention to them.
Another point to that, which I think is interesting, kind of adds what you're saying, is that like there is a separation between what the collective is experiencing, Aquarius, Capricorn, Saturn, and then like what you're personally experiencing. So maybe
Hmm.
this week, if you feel kind of disconnected to the collective drama, power, frustration, is to pull away from that and just like go to your space, go to your home, turn off the social media, turn off the TVs, and just like take care of yourself. Like there may be a need to separate a little bit from that because with Pluto maybe in Aquarius, it just probably doesn't feel safe to be part of the collective or, like having to take care of yourself first.
Yeah, that's a really good point because like we could easily like get swept away in that whole like collective story. Yeah, so I think yeah, like you mentioned, like taking time to make sure that you're like okay and grounded first. And if need be, pull away like as long as it's okay to do so, like as long as
Right.
everything's safe. Yeah. Um and I could totally see that being like part of the larger picture because, we had those fires, right? In Los
Mm-hmm.
Angeles and that was like it's important to stay aware and to tune in and to like help, but I can see how that can get like very emotionally overwhelming if we like make it like huge in our life.
Right. Like the sun being awareness, being in Aquarius, like how much can you do? Like the sun is in detriment in Aquarius because
Mhm.
it's not able to focus solely on itself. It's focusing a lot on others and that community aspect. But that can be harmful at times as well because you do need to take care of yourself first. Like your oxygen mask goes on first. And
Mhm.
so like there may be a need where they're like there is a lot going on collectively, but you just have to step back and you have to find that balance. Like yes, you need to be aware, but if there's nothing you can do about it, are you just like torturing yourself through it,
Mhm.
you know?
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, very true. Yep.
Yeah, so I feel like that kind of wrap ups this week. We'll still be on TikTok. I don't know. I guess till the app stops working on my phone, then I'll like we'll also be posting on Instagram. And we made
Mhm.
a red note, but like I don't know how well our content's gonna do on a Chinese site, because they have their own like astrology.
I was thinking the same. Yeah. I was like, I'm not really sure, but we can like play around with it and see. Yeah, because astrology is like a cultural thing and yeah.
Right, it is very cultural, so I don't know. We'll definitely be on our Instagram at Two Girls Talk Transits. And then we'll definitely still be on TikTok as long as that's still kind of functioning, and we'll let you all know. And then we'll probably post more on YouTube as we
Yeah,
transition.
definitely. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep, definitely check us out on there. And yeah, we will open up probably a private community at some point to like invite
Mhm.
people in. But until then, we're all gonna have to find the creators that we like on other platforms. So we'll see whatever pops off.
We will. But
Mm,
otherwise, keep listening to our podcast, and we'll see you all next week.
see you.
Bye.